Crash Course Live is presented by
Smash It Demolition Derby, who host Bash for Cash, Blizzard Bash, and Capital City Carnage. Online at smashitderby.com. And Stirring Dirt Racing, host of Maymania's team show at the Golden Spike Arena in Ogden, Utah. Online at stirringdirtracing.com.
Reckless Abandon Derby Apparel and Derby Inc. Magazine. This is the Crash Course Demolition Derby podcast, recorded live at the FingerLakes1.com studios in downtown Seneca Falls, New York. And now your host, Chris Marquardt.
Well, good afternoon, good evening, and once again, welcome to the Crash Course Demolition Derby podcast on a Wednesday. All the repairs at the studio looks like they have taken effectively, and we are hopefully able to be heard across the country far and wide as we gear up here for what promises to be a pretty good episode. We've got a couple different guests joining us here. Scotty Drevenak is on the line, waiting already. We're a couple different guests. Push this button quick. You should hear something in the background. Good. All right. So off and running. And we're going to catch up with TJ McCullough too, as he's preparing for No Mercy this weekend. I saw he had some posts up about the mercenary car. And some compact guys were asking some questions about the compact mercenary car as well. So we'll be able to ask him, fire those TJ's way. In the interim, though, before we get into all that, we've got a new video that we're going to be sharing from for All For Him Racing. They just loaded a half-hour reel of just big hits from all over the place. When Alex was out all over the country this year, slowly compiled this litany of heavy hits, and he was able to put that down. It's like 27 and a half minutes, close to a half hour of just the hard hits that he saw through the course of the year. We got a little sampling of that we're going to be playing a little bit later on. So once again, everything should be back in order the way that it is supposed to be, and we are off and running with 396. Scotty is waiting in the wings here. Scotty, man, congratulations on the win down there at SMW's Spec 03 class. It was sounded like it was a pretty interesting class. How was it to drive?
It was fun. The track was pretty muddy.
Yeah.
Put tractor treads on the back, so didn't really have a hard time getting around.
Go ahead.
Besides, Casey Smith kept getting me sideways on the track repeatedly all night long. It was a fun run.
Tell me a little bit about the car and about the build. I mean, how did the inspection process go? What was some of the feedback that was going around as the cars went through?
There wasn't really per se like an inspection, because I guess they didn't really have time and probably got overwhelmed with like all the vending and seminars going on. The expo was a great thing, though. Definitely hope they keep doing it. Mm-hmm. The spec class, it was pretty much like a 03 no protector build. Had a lower cradle on it, tight tank protector. It was the first time I actually really built a trunk on a car. You know, like forming the trunk pan around the frame rails and had fun with all that.
How was that?
It took a lot of time.
Was that as much fun as it sounds?
It started off really fun, but like after I got done with the trunk pan and I'm already like 5 hours in, I was like, oh no, what did I get myself into?
Have you done anything what's the process for when you do the trunk lid? Were you able to do anything with that, dish it down?
We were allowed to build a pretty decent trunk, and like I read the rules. I know a lot of people say I don't. I do. I read the rules and I thought it was just going to be like a trunk like what's on the SMW full size, which is like nothing crazy. Can't really like wrap the frame around the body. But like the more I read into them, I was like, oh, this is going to be a lot of time. You were allowed to like shape the trunk pan around the frame in the back. You're allowed hump plates. You were allowed to pretty much suck the quarters in, tilt the bumper. The back actually went really well for the amount of time I had to do it.
Are you one of the believers in welding it first and then shaping it down so that you get the canoe effect, or do you shape it and then weld it and just use the plates to close the gap after you push the quarter panels in?
Well, when I did, I actually like got my crease lines done on the quarter panels before I even thought about the trunk lid. Mm-hmm. And I didn't really have a boxcar lid because I know that's like the traditional thing you're supposed to use.
Right.
Like, I didn't really feel like running around town to find one, so I kind of broke the factory bubble lid.
Okay.
And I think that actually brought the quarters closer in together when it was all said and done.
Okay. Interesting. How much was Scott looking over your shoulder telling you, I don't know if I would do that?
He didn't even look at it the entire time.
No? Awesome.
It was really loud with all the hammering, and he hates it. So, like, the only time I worked on it was when he wasn't home.
Tell me a little bit more about how this year is going. This has been, it's starting off better than what last year was, and last year was a great year.
Yeah, last year, well, last year I won a hardcore show and went to the bash, ran out of gas at top 4. That hurt. And then this year kind of started off the same way. Came in off a win from Turkey Derby, drove all the way to Florida just to have a battery cable come loose. That sucked.
Yeah, that's right.
And then after that, I ran a stock car at Blue Ridge Bash, the Carolina Derby promotion show.
Mm-hmm.
Won that. I don't know how. I snapped the spindle in half, like, at the beginning of the Derby, and then just limped my way to the end of the Derby. That was a lot of work. And then it was weird. All the steering components in that thing got wiped off on the passenger side. All of it. So I'm trying to maneuver a car that's like the ball joint broke, but it didn't. So half the car's in the air in the back, and I'm just limping this thing around. Somehow pulled that one off. And then, what was next? I think this was next. Yeah, I think this was the next car. Probably had 4 weeks into it, non-stop.
Oh man, you're nothing if not dedicated. That's intense because
Yeah.
you're still
It's
going
almost
to school.
worse.
You're still off to school every day, right?
Yeah. So I pretty much get home around 3. Don't stop working on derby cars till like 9.
Is there any way that you can like recruit some? I don't know. Can you recruit some sort of extra credit or something for what you're doing in the shop?
Maybe. I go to like a trade school, so like
Yeah.
I kind of asked if I could come in and build gas pedals, and they were like, "Yeah, no." Build derby parts in the welding lab. They didn't really like that idea as much as I did.
What didn't they like about it? That were they concerned about a failure being a liability coming back on them?
I think so. That
Yeah.
and a mixture of the fact that I'm a sophomore in a junior class.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I love the drive to be an entrepreneur though. That's awesome. All in time. All
Yeah.
things in time.
I don't have enough time at home to build that type of stuff, so I was like, well, I might as well try to get it done there.
So you grew up in a derby family. You've been around it for essentially forever. How old were you when you started getting the first itch to get into the car?
Well, when I was about, I want to say 9, I was like running Power Wheels, and then I talked to Tim, and I'm like, Tim, my mom won't let me run the derby. Can I run the bash if she can sign off for it? Tim is like, yeah, I don't care.
Okay.
I was super stoked. My mom wasn't. And so I ran the bash in like a Cavalier when I was 10. Don't even know how I did. It was so long ago. And then I think that the next year I ran the bash again in like a Lumina.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't really go well there. And then kind of just been stuck ever since.
Having gotten the car first at the age of 10, that was in one of the youth classes?
Yeah, that was at the bash youth class.
Okay.
Like, probably would have been, I don't even know.
So that would have been
6 years ago. So what's
yeah.
that like?
So I mean, is that at Washington? Is that far enough back to be Washington Courthouse, or was that still is that Chillicothe still?
It was. I think I ran there, but then the next year they switched it. I think.
Okay, all right, interesting. Is there a youth class where you get the opportunity to run at Sandusky, or are you going to be in the adult class if you go run there?
Where at?
Sandusky, Ohio, Erie County.
I I do not know. I'll probably end up running adults.
Yeah.
My dad, he's kind of grown out of the idea of me running youth.
Right. Yeah, I understand. I mean, and at some point, the challenge comes. The new challenge awaits. If you spend enough time refining your craft, you got to move up and figure something else out. And that's really what the whole premise of the Power Wheels. That's what the whole premise of the lawnmowers. That's the whole premise of the compacts for a long time. Where it was somehow the step up from this point to the next point and help continuing on towards those heavier builds. So I mean, there's nothing wrong with him wanting you to be in the adult classes, especially if you're physically able to handle it, and the time that you have allows you to build a competitive and safe car.
Yeah, I personally I know this isn't the same for a lot of people, but I do not like running with a passenger at all. Because when you're in the car, your entire passenger side is blind.
Okay. Interesting.
I tried running a smaller passenger, it still didn't work. I'm blind on that whole side.
They're not, so they get to see the door shot coming, I suppose, right?
Yeah, I guess. It's I remember it was at the Bash last year. He's in there, and I can hear him, but I can't see him, so I'm pushing him to the side, trying to see what's coming. And then, ran out of gas, so it didn't really matter then.
TJ McCullough's in the chat, and he said a battery terminal. He remembers his first build.
Oh.
It's a little cruel.
Oh. Well, TJ, at least I didn't get a B painted on my door at Blue Ridge.
Ooh, wow. It looked good in Victory Lane, though, didn't it?
I guess.
Jake Phillips is wondering if at some point this year there's going to be a little freebie autograph session. Is that something that's forthcoming?
Oh, God.
No?
I'm not there yet.
Not quite yet?
No, I'm nowhere near there.
Frankie Guy says hi as well. What's the year going to look like? I mean, you guys have essentially got a calendar that wraps around you. I think you said your last Derby was last November, and your first Derby was Florida, the first weekend of the year, and then you were back in Virginia, 8 weeks later? So it's not like the Derby season ever really stops for anybody these days.
I guess. I mean, I'm signed up for a couple team shows, the Bash. Mm-hmm. Me and Dad actually got in for the 10K class down there in Florida. A bunch of shows in between. I looked at the calendar the other day and I was like, oh, we're going to be busy. We actually bought a camp down there in West Virginia, and mom's not the happiest because, well, we got a lot of derbies to run. Mm-hmm. And probably not going to be able to go to camp a lot.
I see. Well, if nothing else, at least you got that camp you can stash cars in between having to pick them up before you bring them home, right?
Yeah, maybe. That's our pit stop when we go to those hardcore shows down there.
Right. Are you going to be making the trip over to most of those hardcore events?
Yeah, well, I'm signed up for a few of them. The 8K compact, the 4-man, and the 3-man hardcore team show in a few weeks. And then I'm probably going to end up in the youth full-size championship thing that hardcore's having. I'll probably run, if I have a car. I like running for hardcore because I know it's going to be fair. Mm-hmm. A little too fair for my liking, but I'm still running those guys.
Wait a second. Dial that back. A little bit too fair. Go on. I want to know more about this.
I don't know if you've ever met the head inspector over there, Jonathan Heilman. Mm-hmm. Dude, great guy. Dude is the most thorough inspector I've ever been through. Mm-hmm. The first time I thought I was just getting treated bad until I started talking to people about it, and they're like, no, he's that way with everybody.
So, I heard Heilman is a very focused individual.
Oh, he is. Yeah.
I'm a fan of that. While it might turn people off or they find it to be almost unnecessarily confrontational, like you said, just feel like you're not being treated right. The fact that he's that way to everybody lets you know that he's taking his job seriously. He's educated, he's versed in the content, so he knows what to look for.
Yeah.
and nothing's getting through. You know what I mean? Like if something gets through, it's
And that's one thing about Heilman. He's probably, I'd say, one of the best compact guys around by far. I remember seeing it was Battle at the Border. I didn't run because I think I broke my collarbone or something like that. And like he had this mod Lumina. And granted, I'm like 12 years old. I think it's the coolest thing ever.
right.
And I was like, and then I was building the car for hardcore that winter, and I was like, yeah, if that's what that guy can do, I'm just gonna like play this fair. I don't feel like cutting. I still ended up cutting, but like I thought about it.
Jordan Early checking in. Valerie Fleming says he doesn't like the H15. Frankie guy with his arms out. I can't even repeat what Frankie guy just posted in chat. Man, Frankie says that he's offers equal opportunity to everybody in no uncertain terms. So if you're checking into the live chat online and Facebook, you can read it for yourself. Let's see. Loud and clear. Brown Racing checked in. Awesome. John Alexander over there in Maryland. He's watching from home. He's out there working on a car. He's got a couple rides, and I think that's the most expensive set of tires. He just sent me a picture of it. I think that's the most expensive set of tires that I've ever seen on the back of a pre-run derby car. But, I mean, who am I to judge? You don't usually see Pirelli rubber on a derby car. So, go ahead.
I like some nice black, fresh skid steer tires on the front of a car that's probably going to get jumped.
Is the season going to focus mainly on full-size cars?
To be honest, it's going to be a mixture of both.
Mm-hmm.
After building this full-size car and driving it, it's fun. And it's like, I like doing it at all, but like, you put me in a Camry, it's like that's where I belong.
Yeah.
It's when you run 20 shows in the same Camry, it's weird. Like I sat in the Camry since I drove that last and had to drive around a yard. After I drove that show at the Expo, and it was just I was like, this is so different.
In what sense?
It's like the full size car, you see a lot more. Like you know what the front's doing. In a compact, you can't see through the firewall like you can a no protected Crown Vic.
Right. So,
like, if that front's not going well, sometimes you can feel it, but, like, sometimes you can't.
I see. Did the full-size car feel... let me rephrase that. The 03 that you drove, was it tougher to get a seat feel for that car? With a lot of drivers, when you just said you had so many derbies in that Camry, it gives you the opportunity to sort of sense what's coming. When you have somebody in the passenger seat, you know that something's happening, you can hear it, but you can't see it. The compact, it's a much smaller field inside the car. The full-size cars are obviously bigger, if we're going to go to the extent of overstating all of this. Is it harder to get a seat feel, to get an acclimation, to get that sort of sixth sense when you're driving the car the way that you have with a Camry and a full-size?
It's hard to say, because, like, in a full-size, I feel like I have more visibility around the car than I do in a Camry, but I feel like I feel what's going on around me more than in a Camry, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. That's what I was saying. That's what I was asking about. At the same time, when you were in the full-size car, did you feel like you had more stuff that you had to be aware of protecting versus being in the Camry?
It's honestly like it's the same, because the front wheels on a Camry are weak, just like an 03. And if you have that rack turn when you get hit, you don't have steering. It's the same way in a Camry.
Right.
And like with the right rear end, I don't really feel fear getting hit in the back.
That's interesting. I like that insight. And
it was weird running a wrapped car in the full size, because like it was, I don't really know how to explain. It was just weird, because like usually when you got a 9802, you're like, the suspension's right on those. This was like our first 03 that we actually built.
Yeah.
And it was like, I didn't really know what to expect. They said these things are hard. I thought they were like, yeah, it's hard. Yeah, whatever. Not that much better than a 9802. Oh, no, these things are bad. These things are a different animal.
In a good way?
Oh, it's just, it's so different. It's weird. Like, I hit somebody and I bounced up and I was like, oh, no, this ain't good. And then it went right back down. So I was like, oh, this is weird. I like it.
Do you have plans to run more 03s this year?
I mean, this one's still straight in the front and the back's going perfect, so probably.
I didn't know if that was something that you're going to put a little bit more time in trying to refine. You know, it's always the first one. You learn stuff and you're able to apply everything that everybody tells you, but now you're able to sort of fine tune it and get that build down to something that fits more your style with some of the tricks that you know that's from other events and seeing the car run once or twice after you've had hands on building one. I know that was something you might be exploring. Because the Unified Point Series is something that you were pretty successful at last year, and I was my next question was, with all the shows that you've got on the schedule, are you going to be trying to chase the points this year?
Well, the secret behind getting 10th in points last year was I didn't mean to do that.
Go on.
Like, I won a few shows that I planned on running anyways, and I didn't mean to be in that spot in the point series. Like, I didn't really mean to run Turkey Derby at the beginning of the season, but then I saw the schedule and I was like, why not? Right. And then, so that's kind of what pushed us there. In Florida, that was a point show. I didn't really realize it was a point show. I kind of just wanted to run in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. If I'm in the same I was last year with the points, I might end up trying to chase it at the end of the season. But, like, after watching what Mason Stacy did all year long for points, I got no interest in doing that. No, thank you.
Gotcha. Huh. Well, I mean, busy season, whether you're scoring points or not, as long as you're getting the results and it's still fun, I suppose it really doesn't matter one way or the other, right?
Yeah. Points, what I saw Mason do with building a stock car a week, I could not do that. I like to run one car a lot. I couldn't build a car every week because, A, that's a lot of money in Camrys, and B, that's a lot of money in Camrys.
That's funny. Ed Fay, the Irishman, touched down in New York City. He's from over the border. They do a podcast about banger racing and stuff over there in his home country. Hopefully we didn't just lose Mason there. The phone's chirping at us for some reason. Ed's in New York City. He was hoping to catch a Derby on his trip over here, but there's nothing going on at the moment before he's going to have to go back home. So he's content just to see some old Mopars and stuff, so that's cool. Hopefully he's enjoying his trip down there in New York City. We're going to be catching up